Yo, what's up everybody? Today we're going to be creating this ocean floor scene. I had this random idea come to mind while I was doodling, as you can see in my original sketch here. The first thing I wanted to create to get started was the jellyfish. I found a great tutorial on how to create jellyfish through geometry nodes by CG Matter. So if you're interested in creating these jellyfish, you guys can go ahead and follow that tutorial. I've been learning a lot about geometry nodes in general, and honestly it's a really cool way to create different things in Blender. It's very interesting to see the geometry take shape while connecting the different nodes together instead of just like box modeling. It's a pretty cool process, and honestly shout out to everybody that like really figures it all out and creates these tutorials like CG Matter for us, because I'm just mind blown every time. I also learned how to set up like the ripples to make it look like it's swimming, and I was once again reminded the power of geometry nodes. After a nice gelatinous looking material was made, our jellyfish is looking pretty darn good. So next up, another tutorial by CG Matter. I learned how to make tentacles with geometry nodes. Now I actually made these tentacles previously for a different project that fell through, and I've always liked them, and for whatever reason I always try to implement them. And this is a perfect project to implement them into. And honestly, these are a good one to just play around with. You can mess around with how many like suction cup things you want on there. You could even have it go all the way around. It's totally procedural, and that's probably my favorite thing that I like about geometry nodes, because if I add a variety of something, the geometry nodes, you can easily like randomize how one object kind of looks a little bit different. You like change the length on these, the amount of curl and squirm that you have going on with these tentacles. They're honestly kind of gross, but they are perfect for what we need them for, and I love them. Alright, so next up, I forgot to record for a little bit, but basically just use the random landscape generator already in Blender and just laid out our landscape and some background mountains a little bit. Originally the camera movement was going to be like a 360 going around the snow globe thing, whatever you want to call it, but I ended up changing that. I also watched a few tutorials on water caustics and like underwater scenes, so I learned a little bit about that, being able to put a plane above or actually under a light source to kind of give the light streak look. But anyways, I went ahead and modeled a quick little dome thing, honestly nothing that crazy to it, and now we have our basis for our underwater scene. I then spread our jellyfish around the entire scene to get a feel of what it would look like, and I was definitely happy with the direction that this project was going so far. Alright, and as you can see, there's already a little bit of a green screen me in there, but it was just a reference image for now because I didn't really want it to be seated. So that was next up on the list, was to reshoot some green screen footage. So I set that up, brought that into After Effects, keyed out the green, and then rotoscoped myself just to give myself a little bit of a cleaner edge. And then I just tried to color correct it a little bit. I'm not the best at color correction, if I'm being honest, but I just wanted to put a little bit of like a darker greenish blue tint to my footage because I wanted to try to match that bluish look that we have going on in our water. I did end up also color correcting the entire scene together at the end, just to try to match everything up best as possible. This area took a little bit of trial and error because the first time I exported my green screen footage, it wasn't staying transparent like the background, it was just staying like as a black screen. So I had to play around with the settings, kind of figure it out a little bit, and eventually we got our transparent background with my green screen footage. Now the reason I switched from the camera going 360 around the center to just straight back was simply because I'm just still getting used to using real life footage and Blender footage. Alrighty, our seafloor was looking pretty bare, so I wanted to make some sea anemones, which I learned how to make using the hair system. I learned how to do this in a tutorial by Cheuqs, Cheuqs. These were honestly a ton of fun to make, and it's always just so cool to see how other people use the same tools to create different things, especially like with geometry nodes like I've been saying, and also the hair system and particle systems. It's so cool to see what people do with them. And now our ocean floor is looking a little bit less bare. The final step was to really just place our tentacles in where we wanted them, and I kind of just wanted them to wrap around our dome, and boom, we are met with our sudden doom of Squidward's tentacles.